Hello everyone, welcome back to another video on the JayBee Milly channel. I am JayBee, and before we start this video, here's a quick disclaimer. So first and foremost, I am making a mountain out of a molehill here. This is based on primarily one picture and one picture alone, to which there's circumstantial reasons as to why they were dressed like that, and there's more context behind it that makes it more likely than not that this is just a coincidence. However, based on the fact that it is something that I would absolutely love to see happen, that's why I'm making this video now. So if you're watching this and you think that I'm stretching or that I'm reaching in terms of ideas and concepts, I actually completely agree. I, more likely than not, do believe that this is just how it happened and how it was on the day, as opposed to any real hints. But regardless, there are a lot of reasons why what I'm talking about and what I'm discussing in this video could actually make sense. So if you want to hear about that and the reasons why it could not happen, then please stick around. Without further ado, please enjoy the video. Okay, so let's just break down the reasons why this is likely. So first and foremost, we only have two Sidemen in the photo that was actually posted. Now you could say that in the video that it was based upon, or the video that it was taken in, that there were three Sidemen, I believe, so that would make one of them taking the picture and, you know, the two of them posing there. But I don't really buy that. With the size of the Sidemen channel and the fact that they often have BTS following them round, on top of a few assistants and, you know, the crew behind the Sidemen channel, I think that if they did really want all three of them to be in that photo, then they would. And I'm not saying that, I think, who was it? I think maybe Vic. I don't know which Sidemen it was. Admittedly, we haven't really watched the full video yet, but if they did want them in there, it is absolutely possible. So it could be that KSI, who is dressed as SpongeBob, who they have recently done a collab with, that they're like, okay, let's either one, hint at the next one, or test the water a bit, because I'm wondering if this is a hint at a future collab. I'm guessing I'm not the only one, so to that end, they could be seeing, right, let's see how many comments under this post are going to ask if it's a hint or how much demand this seems to be having. If nothing else, it could be them testing the water to see the interest of this collab. The next reason why this is possible is, now, I'm going to try and include this, but take a look at this clip from Ask the Sidemen when the three Sidemen in that video were asked what their favourite Cartoon Network show was.
Most elite Cartoon Network series discussed. Can we bring up Cartoon Network?
I was going to say, I used to watch cartoons, but I don't remember which one.
Scooby Doo was on it, and Scooby Doo is. Can you see if Scooby Doo was on Cartoon Network? Because if so, there's no discussion.
What's new Scooby Doo? There we go.
That's the one. That's the one.
That might have to be the one.
That is a banger.
You can't beat Scooby Doo.
I can't.
Scooby Doo.
I think Dexter's Lab for me.
Oh, bro! Every episode, it's like a little movie. You find there's a setup. There's something gone wrong. There's a whole storyline, and you introduced to who it is. Obviously, the whole time at the end, it's the big reveal, and it's someone who you thought it wasn't going to be, and it all makes sense. Every episode was so sick. The thing I liked about it was the big reveal at the end, and then everything beforehand makes sense because it's him.
There was, yeah, I agree with you. There's a bit of detective.
Yeah.
I loved that show, but it just wasn't on enough to be my favourite. But no, I'd go Dexter's Lab out of this.
I'm not hating on that. It's a decent answer. That fair enough.
Yeah, I think upon review, I'll go Scooby Doo.
Scooby Doo win.
So based upon that, we do know that Toby really did like SpongeBob, and there's photos of Toby dressed in SpongeBob merch in the past, which is why people were like, oh yeah, this is Toby's favourite collab. Now we're getting a situation where they've been known to actively pursue collabs or accept collabs from franchises that they used to be a fan of or that stuck with them. So Harry and Vic's words in the Ask the Sidemen clip could be an indication that, like, hey, if the SpongeBob one is profitable, if the SpongeBob one does well, then they could actually actively pursue a Scooby one based upon those sales. So I just think that this makes it a whole lot more likely, because they're going to want to associate with brands that they personally believe in. Now, obviously, numbers aren't everything, but I think Harry is the second most popular Sideman, so in terms of that, if it's his favourite of all time, you bet your life that behind the scenes he would have gone, maybe we could try this, but I don't know. The next reason is of course the mutual possibility. Now Scooby is one of the biggest franchises. It's been going for 50 plus years at this point, since 1969, and of course the Sidemen have completely gone crazy at the moment, selling out football stadiums, selling out arenas just with KSI alone. It's absolutely amazing the new audience and the old audience that potentially could come from Sidemen. And of course, if I wasn't a Sidemen fan and they announced that a big UK YouTube, group was collabing with Scooby, yeah, even just with people with a Scooby page, I'd be on board with that. So not only does it bring Scooby fans to Sidemen, but it could also bring Sidemen fans to Scooby. So it does all mix and mesh quite well. So it just seems like a win-win situation. I can't see the Sidemen saying no if Warner Brothers did reach out to them, but for reasons that we'll get onto a bit later, maybe the issue would be on Warner's end. Now the next will be recognisable to viewers of the channel in that Scooby does often like to send exclusive clothing brands or exclusive clothing lines to the UK, and that's most noticeable in Asda, because just recently they've announced and released several Asda George t-shirts and hoodies. So for some reason, for all we might not get all the toys or anything like the US does, we do get a lot of clothes from Scooby here that seems to be exclusive. Now I think Sidemen ship more or less worldwide at this point now, but it does go to show that Scooby look at the UK and are almost like, right, let's send some clothes there for whatever reason. Maybe it's a coincidence, I have no clue, but the fact remains that Scooby does enjoy sending clothes to the UK, so this makes it a little bit more likely. The next is a coalition as far as fan base is concerned. So what I mean by that is both the Sidemen and Scooby have fan bases of all ages. Like if you were a little kid in the age of 1969, you're really, really old now, or like if you're a teenager, whatever, like if you stuck with it, it can often be a generational thing. You can have Scooby fans right now that are toddlers, and also Scooby fans that are in the 70s, 80s. Again, with Sidemen, maybe they don't have the 70s, 80s range, but it's undeniable that people that were kids, say, at the time that KSI released his Lamborghini song, or that watched his FIFA videos, are now more or less about my age, so mid-20s, perhaps early 30s, and beyond. We do know that their fan meetups have a lot of kids, their fan meetups also have teenagers. Basically, there's just money to be made in terms of all the age ranges, and I do think people will get on board with this. And don't forget, SpongeBob and Scooby, for all SpongeBob tends to get a bit more edgy, I think it's more or less the same type of audience. And even if it wasn't, they recently also did a collab with Mr. Man, which I would say is more preschool kids, more kids. I don't know about Mr. Man, but I think that that's a lot younger than SpongeBob and Scooby. So it does show that they're willing to kind of bend to the audience or the fan base of whoever they're collabing with, which is a good sign for Scooby. Now, another thing that instantly came to my mind when I was, thinking about this idea is Warner Brothers surely isn't in touch enough to think about collabing with, big time mainstream YouTubers, because I think they'd think of them as more, they're just internet people versus them wanting to collab with mainstream celebrities. But in actual fact, they have actually done collaborations with YouTubers before. So, for instance, meeting Liza Koshy and Scooby Doo and Guess Who. So it is very possible that YouTubers of this magnitude could get some money. So to put things in perspective, again, fraud numbers isn't everything. Liza Koshy is sat with 17.3 million subscribers, and you've got KSI alone sat with 16.1 million, and the Sidemen channel sat with 17.2 million. And of course, there's all the other individual Sidemen and their subscribers as well. So when you take that into consideration, the size range is pretty much the same, but I would say that the Sidemen are perhaps more mainstream with stuff like, sides and their restaurant business. You know what I mean? They've done an awful lot to make themselves mainstream, to the point where I would say that Warner Brothers would be more than willing to, if they can get past a few of the things that we'll get to in the next section, which is why it's unlikely that this will happen. Okay, so the first point that I'm going to make in terms of why it's not likely is kind of a two-way thing. So it could also prove that it's likely, it could also prove that it's not likely. And that's that the photo that's being used in the thumbnail and the backdrop is actually hidden, for lack of a better word. So you go to one of their Instagram posts, you have to swipe right, and it's maybe the 7th photo in a 10-photo reel. So if they did want to gauge the fan perspective or gauge if this will be successful or not, they're not really doing a good job. If it was that photo by itself, 100,000,000%, I would say this is either 1, 100% testing the water, or 2, 100% a hint. Without a shadow of a doubt, that would have been the case. But with this, you're going to have to be very specific in the comment section. Like, oh, is the 7th photo this? Is the 7th photo that? And I think people are just going to be unlikely to do that. Maybe I'm wrong. I didn't see anyone asking in the comment section when I did check. Of course, I didn't get time to see all of the comments. You know what I mean? If they wanted to gain that perspective, they would have just posted the photo. But equally, they could have the knowledge, and I do think the Sidemen do have the knowledge, to know that Scooby is such a big franchise that it will be successful no matter what. And so to that end, maybe it's just a thing that they can go, oh look, we hinted it subtly all the way back there. That is the case. Yeah, that could be the case. But I don't know. It's 50-50 with this one. It can either prove that it is more likely or either prove that it isn't more likely. However you interpret it. Another aspect that makes this collaboration unlikely is the fact that this photo is 100% justifiable in the context of the Sidemen and their recent video, where their gimmick was one group would dress up as old people and another group would dress up as, I guess you can say, stereotypical kids. As I've said, the fan base for SpongeBob and Scoob do vary from age to age, and so yeah, it could just be, and I suspect it is just attire. So it's just an outfit for a video. That is an easy way to put it. But again, they could have chosen any number of cartoon characters. Not only that, but with the YouTubing aspect of things, I did mention Liza Koshy, but with Liza being in the US, she could be seen as having less restrictions on her in terms of audience. I think often the UK gets put in a box. Like, you never hear anyone say, oh, this is the leader, or this is like the best person in US YouTube. It's just, oh, YouTube. But you hear a lot about the UK YouTube scene, because it does seem like it's very much put in a bubble. So Warner Brothers could be a bit apprehensive to collaborate with YouTubers in the UK. I mean, I know us personally, like, for all we're nowhere near the numbers of the Sidemen. In fact, like, it's just crazy to think how many videos and stuff we'd have to put out to make the views of half of their videos. So it's just absolutely crazy to quantify that. But YouTubers and Instagram accounts of our same size and equal, maybe less, maybe slightly more viewership, do get a lot of collaborations on Instagram and free DVDs to review because they're in the US and they can ship there, whereas there's not really a Warner UK thing set up for that with us or with UK YouTubers. So Warners don't really tend to play friendly when it comes to dealing with UK people. That being said though, let's not forget that the Sidemen are a major company at this point, so they will have a PR representative and no doubt some type of international liaison office, or you know what I mean, like someone to facilitate that collaboration easier than, say, me trying to email Warner Brothers like, hey, can we do this? Like, it's going to be a lot more professional than that. So I do think that makes it a lot less likely, but also don't rule it out based upon that. The next reason why this could be unlikely, but I don't think so, but you can interpret it that way, is that the Sidemen could view Scooby Doo as being too kid-friendly and too safe for their brand. Because like I say, SpongeBob does have more of an edge to it than Scooby in terms of some of the jokes it can tell, the storytelling. It just seems not necessarily more mature, but it's kind of the era in that they can tell jokes that Scooby simply wouldn't touch out of the confines of maybe the 2002 movie. But Definitely Scooby to me personally seems like an older generation than the Mr. Men who Sidemen have collabed with. So honestly, I don't think this is really a point worth dwelling on. I think it will happen regardless of if anyone thinks it's too kid friendly. Okay, now let's reverse that a bit. This is the main thing for me. For all we can go on about Nickelodeon collabing with Sidemen, SpongeBob collabing with Sidemen, Mr. Men collabing with Sidemen, whatever, Warner Brothers, in my opinion, are notoriously out of touch, out of focus. They don't really get it. They're not really clued up with a lot of things. So to that end, the fact that the Sidemen swear in their channel, the fact that there's some drinking challenges, to me, I don't see Warner Brothers touching that or going within a billion-mile radius of the Sidemen. And it's such a shame to see, because as I've said, it will be a win-win. No one can lose from this collaboration. It's just the Warner thing for me is the major drawback. I see them looking at one of the videos and going, no. And don't forget, look at the SpongeBob designs. It isn't SpongeBob, Sidemen in small writing. It's SDMN, the XIX, massive text, with SpongeBob almost being an accompaniment to that. And that's exactly what I've done with, I guess, the Scoob design more than the Guess Who design that I've kind of whipped up quickly. So I do apologise in advance that if they're not that good. But you're going to have Scooby Doo, your beloved character, right next to, you know, it's almost an afterthought to the SDMN brand. And so if you can imagine them wearing that in videos like they've done with the SpongeBob one, where they're swearing, potentially drinking, with Scooby on their t-shirts, on their hoodies, I mean, personally, I don't see much wrong with that. It's who the Sidemen are. And with Scooby, they stand to lose nothing from that. But I can see it happening where Warner just say no. And it is a shame. However, there have been rumblings about Warner's cancelling a lot of the projects like Holiday Haunt to focus on and prioritise edgier content. Now, a collaboration with the Sidemen could be almost them testing the waters on, can we get away with this? Or, you know, can we pull in some audience that like edgy content to, say, the Velma series? Like, that's entirely possible that one of the hoodies could be advertising the new Velma show. Like, I'm not ruling that out at all. Like, if they've done the Velma show, they can collaborate with these guys. So, again, there's things that make me think, no, it's impossible. But the existence of Velma and the rumours about more edgy Scooby, it adds some credence to why the main thing I think standing in the way could be easing up a little bit. And let's not forget, Warner Brothers are no angels. You could be sat there listening to this saying, oh, I don't want Scooby to be associated with swearing or drinking or edgy content. And that's absolutely fine. In fact, if it didn't happen because of that reason, for all I don't respect that decision, I can understand that decision completely. I'm not going to mention their brand's name because I don't want to get in any legal trouble, but recently Scooby Warner did collaborate with a certain brand of clothing designers, or a certain clothing line that is problematic and allegedly has a history of treating their workers very badly, stealing content from, you know, black artists and people of colour in the art industry and design industry. So, you know, shying away from drinking and swearing is fine, but if your moral high ground doesn't extend to treating people fairly and like human beings, then there's just no respect to that end. You're just doing this for show and publicity, not because you're actually good people. So if they did collaborate with the Sidemen, it is by far, like, it is far from the worst, you know, the edgiest collaboration that Warner's will have done. Another thing to consider, though, is who pays for what. Now, will the Sidemen be paying to use Scooby? I guess so, because they'll be borrowing that license for a limited time. Or potentially, will Scooby be paying for Sidemen because they get the advertisement and the audience? I don't know the first thing about contracts and how this stuff could be written up, but if it does involve Warner spending money, that's a big issue in terms of the likelihood of this collaboration or not. Like I said, we've seen stuff like Scoob Holiday Haunt cancelled, and I think even a website, and I'll try and find them, but I even saw on Twitter that apparently over 50 Warner Brothers animation cartoons have been cancelled. So, would a company in supposed financial jeopardy spend money on a collaboration that they're not sure is going to work? I don't see that being likely. So, depending on how the deals are kind of sought out, that's kind of a reason for or a reason not. But I'm more thinking it's a reason not. But yeah, that does it for today. Again, I am making a mountain out of a molehill. This is just one photo that I've taken and I've used to speculate some big collab. But we'll see, you know. If nothing else, I'm wrong. And I've just got a nice video and a nice visual and a nice discussion point. Best case scenario, we can look back at this and I'm like, oh yeah, I called it. So yeah, that's about it. If you want to have more Scooby Doo content, then please like, comment and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.